one place you can go where it's fun to eat and talk and laugh and still get some change back. We're sparkling at McDonald's, taking pride in what we do. That's why 11 million times a day we get to say thank you
for making us number one.
We did it together. McDonald's and you.
Hello and welcome to Staff Picks, the podcast for movie nerds by movie nerds. As always, I'm Mario Lanza, and I'm your host on our journey through the movies out there that just need a little more love. In our movie today, this is a kind of an exception to my rule. I generally have a rule on Staff Picks that I want a movie to be 10 years old before I talk about it. Today, our movie is only 3 years old, and I only make exceptions if I see a movie, and it's generally like a little indie movie or a smaller movie, and it's not going to get a lot of attention, and it just strikes me in some way that this is something special that people should know about. And that is indeed our movie today. We are reviewing the 2016 movie called The Founder, which is a alternate telling of the history of the McDonald's Corporation. A very fun movie. One of these movies that I personally watched, and I thought about it afterwards for like a week. And when you watch a movie and you think about it and it gets in your head, then I know I want to talk about it one day on a podcast. And that is definitely this one. It is a story of ethics and business and good guys and bad guys and shades of gray. And it's a very fascinating story of a restaurant I'm sure you have been to. According to the movie, it feeds 1% of the world's population every day. So McDonald's is one of those things that everyone knows. And my guest today, he is all the way from Australia, bringing one of my international guests onto Staff Picks. He is a journalist, and he tells me he's a cowboy / troublemaking / muckraking journalist. So I'm very excited to have him, a bit of a troublemaker, which is perfect for this movie because this movie is a bit of a hit piece against McDonald's. So welcome to the show to talk about The Founder, Rowan Evans.
Hello, Mario. How you doing?
I am doing good. How are you? Welcome to the show.
I'm doing wonderfully. I thought it was actually really interesting. You're just talking about how the movie sort of sticks with you. And I probably should mention from the get-go, I watched this movie while I was flying to my honeymoon. So that movie just stuck with me, and it's probably the thing that I remember the most from my honeymoon, which is just a really good, I guess the benchmark of honeymoon movies, really.
Have you informed your wife of that fact?
Yeah, I did. She was really not happy about it. Yeah.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about who you are, how you got here, because I know you're the one who kind of reached out to me about The Founder. You said you just love this movie, and you had volunteered for it very early. So why this movie? Why does it stick with you?
So I guess the main thing to think about is that when I first saw the poster for the film, which was the first time I encountered it, it was just I genuinely just felt this intense dysphoria. How is McDonald's of all places making what looks to be just an Oscar bait film, and going into it not having a super big back knowledge of what the film what the actual backstory of McDonald's is. You almost expect to go into this film just seeing Ray Kroc dancing with Grimace and Ronald McDonald in some kind of weird action dream sequence. So that was, I think, the first thing that drew me to the film. And then when you actually watch the film, it is actually just this insane hit piece on the founder of McDonald's, and it just it really, really makes you just enjoy it as a socialist at heart and wanting to see the world burn. I guess it's really good.
So you're just a troublemaker. That's basically what you enjoyed this movie. The what would be again the hit piece-nish of it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just beautiful, and it as well because you're watching it on a plane. You're watching it alongside 3 other movies in a long haul flight. So I watched this film alongside The Darkest Hour, which was this big great piece about Churchill, and then the Mark Felt film about Deep Throat. And then also The Post, which is building up Tom Hanks as this amazing journalist, etc. And then you just get this piece, which is just fuck you to Ray Kroc.
the fuck you to Ray Kroc is how they should advertise it on the poster. Although I will argue that you think it's a hit piece, and it really kind of is, but as you watch it and the more I think about this movie, I really am kind of impressed by how nuanced it is. It really does take down Ray Kroc, but at the same time, you could make the argument that he really doesn't do anything wrong and that he is actually a hero in his own way for what he provides to the world. What do you think about that?
There's a couple of things that I think are really interesting in the way that you're positioned to like Ray Kroc. But it's things you side with him on the issue of whether Coca-Cola ads should be on billboards and whether what's the other? Oh, whether there should be like diversity in the menu. And the whole film makes you think, oh yeah, like this guy is like on the money, like this is a really great thing. And then you realize like, actually, I don't actually mind eating like chicken wings every now and then. So like, why do I back this man? Clearly he's the actual villain, right? But you don't sort of notice that until like the second watch, I think.
Yeah, it's like I said at the start, this is a movie personally that I just thought about a lot afterwards. And in the last maybe 5, 6, 7 years, I can only count on like one hand the number of movies that I saw, and they just lodged in my brain and I thought about them afterwards. And one is this one for sure. One is the Quentin Tarantino movie, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Right,
That one really got in my head. And the other one that I've done on staff picks was Brigsby Bear. Have you seen that one?
No, I haven't seen that one.
That is a crazy movie that lodges in your head. But those three just are so interesting. I got to talk about my history with this movie because I have a really fascinating history here.
Okay, go for it.
Okay, so I live in Southern California, and I live about 40 minutes away from San Bernardino, where the original McDonald's was located, and we'll talk about that in the movie for people who haven't seen this. That's the whole point of the movie. The number of the original McDonald's was in California. And I've been out there many times. And right on the site where the original McDonald's was, there is a museum these days. It's called the McDonald's History Museum or something.
That's pretty cool.
What's funny is the McDonald's Corporation hates that museum. They disavow that museum. They want no part of it. They do not consider that to be part of McDonald's history. But I'm friends with the guy who runs the museum. So I go out there. Yeah, I'm like an amateur fast food historian. I just love the history of American fast food. I think it's so interesting. So I go out there and I talk to this guy all the time, and like I knew about this movie and I knew the history of this movie for years before it ever came out. Because I'm like, he's like, they don't like me. They hate my museum. It's like the entire corporation against me. So like he's like, one day, there's going to be a movie. There's supposed to be this book and this movie coming out about the history of McDonald's, and McDonald's hates it. Like it's a hit piece. It shatters every illusion that Ray Kroc was this god that invented McDonald's. And he's like, one day they will tell my story. So I knew about this movie for years before it came out because I know this history.
That's so cool. Yeah, like going into it, you feel as though it is almost like, well, without that back knowledge, you almost feel as though you're about to watch something that is funded by McDonald's and that it's like this weird, marketing campaign. But yeah. It's just exactly the opposite.
It's against, but again, it's against McDonald's. But as the movie goes on, there are lots of gradients of black and white and who's right and who's wrong in this movie. That's what really made me think about it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's incredibly poetic and like filmographic, I think, as well.
Yeah, it's just really overall, it's just really well done. And again, even if you don't care about McDonald's, this is a movie I think you will find fascinating because, A, it's about business, how business works in the world, how ethics works. And again, just McDonald's. Was McDonald's a good thing or a bad thing? Like, it's very, trendy to say it's like the downfall of all, culinary history in America, that McDonald's is the worst thing ever and it makes people fat. But, like, it provided a lot of jobs and it provided a whole car culture in the U.S. So it's really interesting whether you think it was a good or a bad thing.
Yeah, true.
So in Australia, they call it Macca's, right?
Correct. Yeah. Go down to Macca's. You do a Macca's run every now and then. Usually, it's typical when you first get your driver's license to do a Macca's run with your mates. So you get like 3 or 4 mates in the car, drive down to Macca's, go through the drive-through, and buy your ice creams and whatever, and head back home. And it's a rite of passage.
Now, is that real ice cream or powdered ice cream?
That's a good question. Apparently it's got bacon in it for some reason. Like they've got some kind of pig oil in the ice cream. People always tell me it's not vegetarian.
Now, are Macca's all over Australia? Like in the U.S., there's a McDonald's every mile. They're just all over the place. Is it like that in Australia too?
Yeah, all everywhere. There's this small town called Yass in New South Wales, which is famous for being like all over the world. It's penetrated meme culture, I think, because they put out a billboard campaign just covering every single McDonald's in the country. So when you're driving down the highway, they'll have a big M and then the name of like the next place that has a McDonald's. So obviously you've got this big M and then the word Yass, Y-A-S-S. So it made it into meme culture because it spells out the word my ass. And I don't think anybody really noticed.
I didn't know where we were going with that. You threw me off guard there. I thought we were going like Yass Queen or something like that, but no, you went my ass.
A bit of both, yeah.
Okay, so yeah, let's delve into this. This is a really fascinating movie, and again, it's somewhat of a hit piece, but somewhat not. It's not entirely critical of Ray Kroc, although one could argue because, like, are you a Michael Keaton fan? Do you know other Michael Keaton movies?
I've seen the Birdman one, but I haven't seen a lot of stuff.
Yeah, Michael Keaton was one of my favorite actors in the 80s. In fact, it's really interesting if you're younger, if you wouldn't know this, but like at the time, he and Tom Hanks were always like fighting for the same roles and back in the 80s. And I would make the argument that Michael Keaton was the bigger star. Tom Hanks got the stuff that Michael Keaton turned down.
Right. I have a feeling Tom Hanks looked at for this film as well?
It would not surprise me because he and Michael Keaton have been doing that for years.
Right. Yeah.
So like Michael Keaton, yeah, he was like a big deal in the 80s, then he had a huge comeback, and this was kind of in the middle of his comeback where people were reminded, hey, this guy was actually really good.
Yeah. He's really great.
That's the thing with, like, Ray Kroc is not presented that admirably in the movie, but because he's played by Michael Keaton, who's so charismatic, you kind of root for the guy. That's what makes it really fascinating.
So true, yeah. It's incredible how much, like, as I've said, like, it just does position you to, like, sort of take positions that are very uncommon in films.
Okay, yeah, we'll get to this in a second, especially towards the end of the film. The end of the film, they really start turning the screws where you're like, I'm not entirely sure who the good guy was here, to be honest.
Right, yeah. That's exactly right.
All right, so let's delve into this, the hit piece that takes down the McDonald's Corporation, although it really kind of doesn't, but I know the McDonald's Corporation hates this movie. And I know out in San Bernardino, they have the founder posters and autograph stuff all over that museum because it's like the one time that somebody has told the story of the McDonald brothers.
That's really cool. I'm glad that they're sticking it to the man like that.
Yes. Although I will advise people, if you ever visit San Bernardino, you may not want to go to that museum because it's in the shittiest part of town you will ever see. So be very careful.
Is there a McDonald's nearby at least?
There is one fairly far away, not next to it, but like I think McDonald's is even scared to go that part of town.
Fair. It must be a shit part of town then.
Yes. When McDonald's is turning down the free poverty money, then you know it's a bad place.
Correct.
All right, so one more thing before we start. I just want to say, for people who may not know this, that McDonald's was a very highly regarded and well-respected company and restaurant up and through, a good part of my childhood. Like, it would be a big deal if you were in the 70s. Like, if your class goes to McDonald's or they bring McDonald's to class, that's like an exciting upscale thing almost for you.
Oh, it used to be really awesome when we would go to McDonald's as a class, but then they'd always like pull the dirty on you where you don't get Coke, you get orange juice.
Oh.
It was so bad. It was,
that's terrible.
That made me angry.
Yeah. But yeah, McDonald's they really had high quality control standards up and through maybe the 70s or 80s, I'm not sure, but they've really gone downhill. It's a significantly different experience now than it would have been when I was a kid. So that's the one thing I want to point out why people in this movie are so fawning towards McDonald's back in the 50s and 60s.
Right.
It really was like that, so that's not out of character.
Maybe I'm too young to make this call, but did it sort of also go downhill because of Super Size Me?
I would guess even before that.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's we'll talk about that as we go along here. But yeah, Super Size Me was a huge hit. For people who don't know, that was a documentary by a guy named Morgan Spurlock who just ate McDonald's for a month, and he had so many health problems, and it was the biggest hit piece ever on McDonald's, way bigger than this one, to be honest.
Just explain like the kind of food that you can get at McDonald's for the people at home as well.
Oh, the kind of food? Well, hamburgers.
Oh, okay, all right, yeah. Okay, thanks.
I mean, yeah, back in the 50s, it was just hamburgers, fries, and Cokes, and then they've expanded over the years. And I remember in the 80s, it was a big deal because they started adding chicken. Like, oh my God, chicken at McDonald's. That was a big deal. Chicken nuggets.
Yeah, they added the fish at some point.
Yeah, the filet of fish is a concession to the Catholics because Catholics cannot eat meat on Friday, so they made a fish sandwich. But yeah, they've really, their menu now, there's dozens and dozens of things, salads and all sorts of crazy things on there that they wouldn't have had back in the 70s and stuff.
Do they sell apple bites at Macca's in the US?
I'm guessing that would be the equivalent of our apple pies.
No, as in like they literally sell slices of apple in Happy Meals now.
Oh, they do, and I think a lot of that is because of Super Size Me. I think Super Size Me forced them to give healthy options to kids.
Yeah.
Yes.
Pretty crazy. All right.
So
let's jump into it.
Yeah, here we go. The Founder, one of the most interesting ethical movies I've ever seen, just about business ethics and All right, so here we go. So,
Crazy.
so we start this movie in 1954, I believe, and it's Michael Keaton, and he plays this traveling salesman named Ray Kroc. And what do you explain to people? What does Ray Kroc do for a living in 1954?
Ray Kroc is selling milkshake machines, and it's like milkshake machines that have like 4 different shakers on them, so you can like shake multiple milks at a time. And he's not doing too well for himself.
You know what? That does actually bring up something. When I was in Australia, I had a milkshake, and what you guys call milkshakes is different than what we call milkshakes in America. That actually shocked me.
What do you mean?
When I had a milkshake in Australia, more often than not, it was just milk with flavoring in it. It was like what we would call chocolate milk.
Yeah.
And the places I went, you had to order a thick shake, and that was what we would call a milkshake in America.
Yeah. So the thick shake is like it has ice cream in it?
Yeah, so a milkshake in Australia has no ice cream.
Right, yeah. I have also experienced this issue. I do not like it very much. I prefer to have a thick shake than a milkshake.
Excellent, thank you. Even the Australian is bashing the Australian milkshake.
Correct. I think the difference, though, is that they actually put malt in the milkshake, whereas if you order a chocolate milk, it's just flavored.
Yeah, that's the same here, but you would just get the one with malt here. There's no equivalent
Right,
to it.
okay. Okay, yeah, fair.
Okay, so yeah, Ray Kroc travels around the country and he sells this multi-mixer, which is all true. This is based on reality. He drives around and he has this thing that makes 5 milkshakes at once. It's the state of the art, and we learn that he's struggling. He is perhaps not the most successful salesman ever.
Yeah, like the film actually opens with like a close-up shot of him giving a pitch that fails. Like that is the state in which we find Ray Kroc.
Yes, although it's not a bad pitch. It's just nobody wants it.
Correct.
Yeah, he's a good salesman. There's no demand for this. And he's lucky to sell one of these multi-mixers. And he's just driving around the U.S., and this would have been very common back in the 50s in the U.S., these traveling salesmen just driving around and living in their car and living on the road. And he's just got a crappy life. It just sucks.
Yeah, I mean, the film student in Milo is just like very much admiring the way that they would frame him within the car. So like he would get out of the car, look at a map, and then the camera would be watching him from behind the windscreen, basically. So it almost is pitching Ray Kroc as a man that is entirely caged within his car.
Ooh, that's very nice. I like that. Yeah, there's really cool cinematography shots. And yeah, it's just him driving around and every day making a pitch to sell this stupid milkshake mixer and doing the exact same speech and people just saying no, they don't want it. So this is his life every day. And again, if he doesn't sell these, he doesn't eat. And I should point out, Ray Kroc is not young here. He's like already middle-aged.
Yeah, he's like 50, or probably like 40, 50.
Yeah, Ray Kroc was not a overnight success. It took him many years to find something that worked for him.
Yeah, 100%. And like, I think I think this points out the way that you're sort of positioned in weird ways by this film is that like most of this film is the opening of the film is Ray Kroc expressing his distaste for everything about 50s culture that you usually see.
Yeah, well, okay, that's very interesting because this would, for a younger audience, you wouldn't get this. But it was very much a thing in the 50s that teenagers, A, suck, and B, equals crime. If you have teenagers around, it means you have a juvenile delinquency element. So it's Ray Kroc driving around to these drive-ins in the 50s, and it's just, he hates everything about this drive-in experience. Like, the lines are too long, it takes too long to get your food, and there's these teenagers hanging out there, and again, teenagers meant crime, and that was very realistic at the time.
Yeah, but I think also that like that is kind of romanticized usually, right? Because you get like Elvis Presley, for instance, well known to like have been associated with criminal behavior in terms of like just his cultural output, and yet like that is kind of romanticized in that people are like, oh, really love Jailhouse Rock, etc. But the teens in this film are just not even romanticized. It's just this is shit.
Yeah, well, the Elvis thing is interesting because it depends on who you ask. Because if you'd ask, like, the parents at the time, they're like, oh, my God, this guy's Satan. So, like, it depends on if you ask people born after the 50s or before the 50s.
Right. That is definitely true. I think that, like, the romantic view is the one that has survived, I think, whereas, like, when you talk about a parent who, like, hated Elvis, it is, like, mocked nowadays. And in this instant is just like, oh, like, this is a perfectly valid reasoning, right?
Well, I would phrase it this way, that winners are the one that write the history books. And
Correct.
all the people who would have written the books the other way died. So young people wrote the books.
Yeah, they vanquished their parents.
Exactly. Young people will always win in the end. Remember that, old people.
Yeah.
So he's driving around going to all these roadside diners, and the thing with the diners at the time, which is expressed very well in this movie, is that they were not just burger places back then, that there was almost no such thing as a burger place. They'd be giving you full-on meals of barbecue and like chili and chicken and tamales and stuff. So like it was not really, burger culture had not started yet. McDonald's was basically going to start that.
Yeah, and like that kind of stuff actually doesn't sound super bad. Like as somebody that is now living in the 21st century, I kind of wish I could just drive somewhere and get an actual meal in my car. That'd be great.
Yeah, and this is where we come back to the question: was McDonald's a good thing or a bad thing for America?
Big question.
Because that's the thing. Like you can go to a roadside stand in the 50s and get a full-on authentic barbecue meal, which is a good deal, but you probably have to wait about 40 minutes for them to make it and serve it to you in the car, and that's what's frustrating.
Yeah, true. And now you can just pay somebody like $5 to like go down to the shop and buy it.
Exactly. Yeah, Uber Eats. Yeah, Uber Eats and Grubhub, they take care of that.
Correct.
So, Ray Kroc is just driving around in this crappy drive-through car hop culture. He hates it. He's old. He's got a wife at home. He never sees her. His life just sucks. And every night in his hotel room, he listens to these records. And this is based in reality. I know this is true because I know a little bit about Ray Kroc, about motivational speaking, how to become a better seller. And what is the word? The key here is not talent and it's not genius. What is the word that he always reminds himself is the key?
Persistence.
Yes, persistence. Basically, just keep doing this over and over, and eventually you will succeed. It doesn't even matter how good you are. Just keep doing it, and eventually something will work.
What I found interesting about this is like it's kind of a trope in video games. I'm not sure about other pop culture, but like this idea of this weird disembodied voice of somebody from the 1950s explaining virtues in a certain way, and that person turning into a villain. Are you familiar with that kind of trope?
I don't know video games as well, so explain it if for people who might not.
So like you'll have video games wherein there's some kind of social experiment going on where there is like in BioShock, for instance, it's like this underground city, and in Portal it's this it's like a science experiment sort of thing, and it's all been built by these 1950s kind of weird disembodied voices that have recordings, and then they're like played out into these areas, and the story usually tells about like the unraveling of that person, and it turns out that they're extolling certain virtues that end up being like the downfall of their civilization. I think that is quite an interesting trope to sort of appear in this film.
So the voices of the god, basically these long forgotten gods, are giving Ray Kroc the instructions that will bring forth the downfall of society.
Exactly. Yeah, I think that's what's going on here. Yeah.
All right, see, now it's funny, you read the Ray Kroc biography, and they would say, well, he was just a very good salesman, so I don't know if they get into the trope.
Yeah, 100%.
So that's the key for Ray Kroc here. Persistence and determination, that they can beat anything. Genius will never win. Talent will never win. Persistence plus determination is all powerful. And boy, are we about to see that over the next hour.
Correct.
Okay, so Ray Kroc is just driving around the country, and he calls back to his home office saying, are there any orders for my stupid multi-mixer? And his secretary says, well, there's some restaurant out in California, San Bernardino. They ordered 6. And he's like, 6? Who needs 6 multi-mixers? Who the hell could make 30 milkshakes at one time? That's astounding. Nobody would do that. So Ray Kroc thinks it's a clerical error, and he calls them up. He's like, you didn't order 6, right? And he talks to this guy, Dick McDonald, the founder of McDonald's, and Dick is like, yeah, that might be a problem. That's the wrong order. We actually need 8. And so Ray's like, oh my God, who's making 40 milkshakes at a time? I got to go see this place.
Correct. And it's like how soon can you get here rather than how soon can you cancel it?
Yeah, it's there's apparently this business doing gangbusters, crazy business out in California, and Ray Kroc, the savvy businessman that he is, has to go see this place. So this is where we meet the original McDonald's restaurant, number 1 in San Bernardino. And so let's talk about his trip out to meet the McDonald's brothers.
This is where Ray Kroc drives up to the first of the many McDonald's restaurants in the film, which I think is particularly interesting. Have you read much of the backstory of these buildings that they used?
It was filmed in Georgia, I believe, right?
Yeah. So basically what they did was they bought like a park, or they rented a parking lot and built like this this building which is just ultimately modular, right? So like you can take out as many of the walls and like put them back in again. And it's built such that every single McDonald's restaurant that you see in the film is actually just the same building that they've changed around a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is the first one that we see in the entire film. And is it? I can't remember if it's the first day or the second when Ray is introduced to the Speedy system.
Okay, that's the second. Yeah, we'll get. Okay,
Yeah,
so
okay. All right.
for people who know America, Rowan may not know this, but yeah, Ray is in St. Louis and he has to go to San Bernardino, California. So he takes the famous Route 66, which was the famous road in America at the time, and he goes to San Bernardino. And it's funny because, again, if you go to San Bernardino now, it is a shithole, to be nice. It's basically an abandoned city. It was a big, thriving city up until about the 80s, and then all the industry left, and then all the people left, and then all the meth heads moved in.
That does make sense.
So it is like an abandoned city. Like half of the houses and buildings are abandoned. It's the creepiest place. And they couldn't very well film there because that area looks nothing like it would have in the 50s, so they did it in Georgia instead, so that's why.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yes.
So he drives up to the number one McDonald's, and it's just this little takeout burger place with glass windows, and there's no car hops. People have to walk up to the counter to order their burgers. And Ray is like, I don't get this. I've never seen a place.
Very confused.
Yeah, he's very confused. But there's a line like stretching down the block. And he's like, these people must be making so much money. He's trying to figure out what's going on. So he walks up and he tries their food, and he likes it. He says it's good, right?
I think somebody says the line moves really fast, and then it sure enough does. And then he gets it in like 30 seconds, which is like a concerning amount of time if you're ordering at McDonald's today.
Okay, we'll get to that in a second. But that used to be the selling point of McDonald's. They changed that.
Right, yeah, 100%.
Yeah, but he's amazed because there's no car hops, and the food comes fast, and the food is good. But most importantly, and this is again critical to this movie, there's no goddamn teenagers hanging out at this place. So there's no criminal element. It's just families and little kids. And he's amazed. He's never seen one of these without teenagers surrounding it before.
Yeah, it's family values, really.
Yes. Although I'm amused, there's a scene where like they give him the burger in a little paper wrapper, and he's like, "Where do I eat it?" Like he's never seen because drive-ins at the time would have given you trays and plates and silverware like a full meal. He's never seen eating out of paper before. It astounds him.
I think the only teenagers you see in this scene are like the ones actually working in the kitchen.
That's right. The good, clean-cut teenagers.
Ah, right. Yes, of course. Yeah, as they should be. Damn it.
Exactly. That was what San Bernardino is known for: clean-cut teenagers.
Yeah, clean cut and made to work for the man. Damn it.
Yes. That's how you knew they were good. They were sucking it up and working for the man and doing what they were told.
Working an honest job, as I did in my day.
Exactly. Yes. So he gets up there and he tries the food, and he gets his burger, like he orders it, and it's ready before he even pays his money. And he's like, this can't be right. And they're like, no, it's real. This is how fast it comes here. And he tries it, and he's like, this is good. Like, I cannot believe this is actually good. So he has to figure out who has perfected the fast food market here. And he meets the brothers. These are Mac and Dick McDonald.
Yes, yeah. And is it this scene that they mentioned the diabetes thing, or is that the next scene?
I mean, it's kind of mentioned in passing a couple times. Yeah, one of the brothers is healthy, and one has health problems.
Right, yeah. So, and that is like what I referred to in my notes as Chekhov's diabetes.
That's good. So yes, Chekhov's diabetes will make an appearance here, and then we'll have a payoff later. So the two brothers, and these were real guys. They were two real humble, hardworking brothers that put together this amazing burger. They perfected the burger experience. And in the movie, they're played by two actors. Do you know these guys? Do you know Nick Offerman and John Carroll Lynch?
I know them, not very well though. I haven't actually watched any of like Nick Offerman's other stuff.
Yeah, Nick Offerman, most people know him from Parks and Rec. He plays
Ron Swanson.
Ron Swanson, yeah. And the other guy, John Carroll Lynch, almost always plays a villain in movies. If you've seen the Zodiac movie about the Zodiac killer, he plays the creepy suspect in that.
Okay.
Yeah. There's lots of movies. He's in one I did called The Invitation, and he's also in Fargo, where he plays Margie's husband. He's all over the place.
Yeah, I've seen that one.
Yeah. So the two brothers, either they're so proud of their system that they've devised that they go and they give Ray Kroc the entire tour and give him all their secrets, which ends up not being a good idea in the long run.
For sure. Yeah. Well, actually, I'm not sure if that's the case.
Well,
I'll explain why.
Okay. Well, explain the tour. So they give him a tour. Explain the inner workings of the first McDonald's to people.
Yeah, so have you ever seen like one of these, just like, you know how when you're like scrolling through Facebook and you just see like a how it's made sort of thing? That is how I would describe this scene. So it is basically just like one of these mind-numbing content films about like just how something is made. So it's basically just like showing you the factory of McDonald's as to how like you fry the hamburger in a certain way, then it goes onto the bun, and then you squeeze this contraption that puts in the perfect amount of tomato sauce and pickles and onions. And is there mustard as well? I can't remember.
Not at McDonald's, not back then, no. Oh, wait, no, sorry, I take that back. There was, in the movie, there was mustard, yes.
Yeah, and then and no lettuce. I'm pretty sure they made a point of that. And then yeah, that's done in 5 seconds. Yeah, and then they have the drinks as well, and the the chips. Yeah, the fries are done.
Yeah, this would be the speedy service, and this is what McDonald's would have been known for up until, gosh, the 60s or 70s, I'm not sure, but this was their claim to fame, that they could get a burger from grill to counter in 30 seconds. And not only that, but every single one was high quality, they had the highest of standards, and every single one was really good. And so it was this amazing system that they could crank out these burgers so fast and so cheaply. That's why no other place could top them. And the brothers are very proud of this because they've devised the system. And I think what the word is, one of them says speed is the name of the game. And the other brother says there's not a wasted motion. Like every single movement that every of the workers does is choreographed down to the second for the perfect timing of a burger. It's really, it's kind of fascinating here.
Yeah, so you said that this is like a mistake, that they shouldn't have done this?
I'm not saying it's a mistake. Well, okay, I will say I never saw the speedy service in action, and it's one of those things I wish I could have seen because it would have been really fascinating to see this. It's like you said, it's like a machine in there. It's like little pieces in a machine. Every little person has their thing, and this was the trademark of McDonald's. And like when I was a kid, you'd go to McDonald's and the food would already be made before you ordered it.
Right.
And my dad would take us there, and he loved it because it was so fast getting in and out of McDonald's. And then the other fast food chains would counter that by saying, we make it after you order it, so it's cooked to order for you. And that became a badge of honor, and all of a sudden what McDonald's was doing looked very passé and old-fashioned.
Right.
So McDonald's eventually switched away from that, and now they make it when you order it, and it's much slower. It's a much different experience than like it would have been. So I'm just saying I would have loved to see the speedy service in its prime because it was really cool, I bet.
Yeah, I think that's the two differences in the film that make it clear that you're watching a film that's based in the 50s. Is that A, it's made before you order it, and B, all the teenagers are smiling. Because nowadays, you have buzzers going off like every 30 seconds telling you that you're like too late for this order, and like this order is like 2 minutes behind what it was supposed to be.
Yeah, it's totally different experience, and that's the thing. Like, if you don't like McDonald's now, this movie is still interesting to see what McDonald's was when it started, because it was a whole different thing.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
A burger factory, I think you would say. So we learn the history of the McDonald's brothers, that these guys came out from New Hampshire and moved out to California, tried to strike it rich, and McDonald's was like their fifth venture or something.
Yeah, something like that. I think, sorry, there's just one more thing I wanted to note. When they were mentioning the speedy system, I had to laugh because they mentioned that it's fully automated. And yet the entire thing is like run by people. So it's like almost the exact opposite of what fully automated means today.
Words mean different things in the U.S. sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So yeah. So the McDonald's brothers came out and they tried to open a movie theater and like a hot dog joint and a barbecue stand, and eventually they did pretty well with their barbecue stand in San Bernardino. And again, if you go to the McDonald's museum, they have the menus from when they were a barbecue restaurant with McDonald's. It was like they had tamales and all sorts of crazy stuff in there. But this talks about how they eventually realized, we did pretty well with selling this normal food, but like 85% of our sales come from burgers, fries, and drinks. So let's just do that. And so this whole little complicated section of the movie here at the start where they shut down their barbecue place, they focus just on burgers, fries, and drinks, And this is the scene that I think most people remember from this movie, where they go out on the tennis court and you see the McDonald's brothers perfecting their speedy system by drawing chalk all over the court where everybody's going to stand.
Yeah, and it's all done in like an eagle eye view, so you can see it from top down. It's almost like everybody's on a floor plan.
Yeah, it's really now. Did you like that scene? That's my personal favorite scene in the movie, just because I just love the idea of the speedy service.
Yeah, like as somebody who like is a film student, I think it is just a top-notch scene. Very mannerist, I would say.
Yeah, that's the one standout. If you watch this movie, that's the scene you want to watch, is them perfecting how every single person is going to stand, spin, twist, where the things are going to go, how you have 2 seconds to squirt this right here. It's really fascinating. And then you get the history of how McDonald's opened with the speedy system, and it was a flop at first because the public didn't know what to do.
Right. Yeah, I think what's interesting about this that you don't sort of notice it the first time you watch it, but on the second watch for me in particular, it became clear that this is the hallmark on which they think that they've made their name, and yet when Ray Kroc unravels it at the end of the film, he reveals that it's actually just because your name is McDonald's.
Yeah.
You could have done all this and it wouldn't have mattered. It's just that your name is McDonald's, and I think that is just the absolute nail in the heart of the Nick Offerman character, because he's built his name on this and thinks that is the thing that has made him successful. It's just really amazing.
It's Chekhov's name.
Yes, exactly. Chekhov's name. Chekhov's speedy system.
Yes. Chekhov's clown.
Correct. Yeah.
Although I should point out, there's not a mention of Ronald McDonald at any point in this movie, so I wanted a little trivia note.
I actually laughed out loud, realizing that there is a lawyer in this film and that they play a major part in this film, but Ronald McDonald does not.
Yes.
It's just
Okay, so McDonald's opens, and the general public has no idea how to deal with this new type of restaurant where there's no car hop, and you can't place an order in your car. You have to walk up to a window, and they don't give you silverware. They have no idea how to react to this. Now, it's funny, McDonald's is not like this anymore. McDonald's nowadays is, it's a restaurant, you sit in there, they have drive-thrus, but at the time it was this old-style takeout. And what's funny is there still are a couple old-style fast food chains that still look like this in America. The one that I think of in particular is In-N-Out Burger, which, are you familiar with In-N-Out Burger at all?
No, is that when you eat a burger and it goes in and out within 30 seconds?
I mean, that's all burgers for the most part, and also Taco Bell. Taco Bell does that. But In-N-Out Burger now looks like McDonald's did in the 50s, where you have to walk up to the counter, and they only have 3 things on their menu. And it's like the national burger chain of California. That's like when you think California, you think In-N-Out. But that's In-N-Out survives because it looks like McDonald's used to.
Right. Okay. Yep. That makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. So eventually the public grasps what the McDonald brothers are doing, and this McDonald's becomes a hit. It's like the most profitable burger chain ever in history because of this speedy service, which nobody else can do. And Ray Kroc loves it, as the salesman in him loves this thing, and he's like, I have to be a part of this. And right from the start, he's like, this is the future of fast food. I will be involved in this somehow. And stupidly, the McDonald brothers let him in. As they say, we let a wolf into the hen house.
Yes.
So what do they do? He comes up with a suggestion. What's his suggestion to them?
So he comes into the suggestion of do it for your country. And I think this is another one of those scenes that has really amazing filmography. Because he walks in and announces, what does he do? He drives through the city and sees all the churches and the American flags. And they do this really weird montage of just all of them. And then he walks in and announces that they should do it for their country.
Well, yeah, first he says franchise. That's the word. He's like,
franchise,
take this and clone it, which people don't know that word. It means clone this everywhere else in the country. And they're like, no. And he's like, you have to do it for your country, as Rowan said.
Yeah, yeah. And I think the great thing about this scene is that he's standing right between 2 windows that have light coming in, but there's blinds on them. So you get the look of this angel wings coming off of Ray Kroc while he's extolling the virtues of doing this for your country and thinking about churches and American flags and how all this religious symbolism that comes with.
Yeah. Okay, so the McDonald's brothers have tried franchising before because they know they have a great idea, but they're not super savvy businessmen, and they're not especially aggressive. They just know they have this great idea, and they've tried before, and they ran into the problem. What is the problem they've run into in the past when they tried to franchise?
They don't have enough control over people, I think. They all wanted to, have all this variety and so forth, and it's like abandoning the speedy system, basically.
Yeah, exactly. The name of the game for the McDonald's brothers is quality control. We have our names on this restaurant. This represents us. It must be the highest standards, the highest quality. Everything must follow the system exactly. And what happens when you franchise is the other people don't follow your rules, and you don't have any power to stop them. And so they're very suspicious, but Ray Kroc eventually wins them over. And this is the defining debate in this movie. What is better, to have many versions of the same thing all over the place, or just have a smaller amount of them that are guaranteed to be the highest of quality? And this is where you're going to run into the ethical debate where McDonald says it's better to have one great restaurant than 50 mediocre ones. And Ray Kroc says, no, it's better to have 50 mediocre ones than one great one. And this is where it becomes really interesting, the ethical dilemma here.
Yeah, and I think at this point, Ray Kroc is still imagining almost that it's going to be 50 great ones as well. Like, it won't even be mediocre.
He goes into it with the best of intentions, I do believe.
I think, and just before this scene, he's looked at the golden arches as well, right?
Yes, yeah, we've seen this proposed. McDonald's doesn't have the famous M yet. Right now, it's just a proposal that one of the brothers has thought up called the Golden Arches, which he likes it because it will pop. It's a neat little display. And Ray Kroc fixates on those. He goes, those are going to be your symbol. We want those all over America, just like churches and courthouses. This will be the symbol of every town in America.
Yeah, 100%. I think that is ultimately what happens, right?
I was going to say,
in the real world.
Yeah, he is not wrong.
Yeah, actually, I think when my brothers were kids, we used to have like the dining room table was situated so that you could actually see the golden arches, and so my parents had to switch which side of the table everyone sat on because my brothers would never eat their dinner.
It was too distracting. McDonald's proved to be too much of a deterrent.
Yeah, exactly. Every time they sat down to dinner, it'd be like, Mum, can we get Macca's instead? Or...
Well, it's funny because this is for people who have not seen this movie. This is one of Ray Kroc's pitches. He's like, McDonald's can be the new American church, feeding bodies and souls, but not just one day a week, but 7 days a week. And the brothers are eventually seduced because Ray's like, you want these golden arches. I can put these golden arches everywhere in the country, and they will know it's synonymous with you, Dick McDonald. And so Ray is a wonderful snake oil salesman, although, again, I think he personally has the best of intentions, and it's going to go bad very quickly, but I think everyone's on the same page, at least at the start.
Yeah, 100%. Everyone's on the same page, thinks that they agree that that they will have ultimate say over what gets done and what does not get done.
Yeah, the McDonald's brothers sign up a contract, and they're like, we've tried this before. Franchising does not work, but in this case, maybe it will. We'll try it again one last time because we love our idea. And so they're like, but we're going to do it. We're going to very strict legal contract, black and white. We have full say over every single thing you do, Mr. Kroc. And he's like, yeah, sure. And so...
Yeah, and this is where they really load up the Chekhov's diabetes, where they mention that, like, the last time they tried to franchise something, like, the guy had to go to hospital or whatever.
Yeah. Chekhov's diabetes, yeah. We'll make an appearance later.
Chekhov's diabetes. Yeah. Okay.
Oddly enough, not caused by eating at McDonald's.
Yeah, very strange, yeah.
It's the twist ending.
That's proof that it's set in the 50s.
Yes. Only one guy had diabetes in the 50s, so.
Yeah, correct.
All right, so they sign the contract and everything's cool, and basically from here on out, Ray Kroc is in charge of going out to the rest of the country and trying to persuade people to sign up and start a McDonald's just like this one, that he's the right arm of the McDonald's brothers, and they control quality, but he's going out there and he's pitching people. So let's see, he goes to the Midwest because he's from Illinois, and this will become very important to the history of McDonald's. That he starts in Illinois. He starts in his hometown. He starts going around to all his buddies. And they all just laugh at him at first, right? Because they've seen him do this before.
Yeah. I think this is one of those scenes that's set in a classy restaurant, right?
Yeah, he goes to these... It's like a club, like a country club. All his rich country club buddies, he pitches them.
Yeah. Oh, is He goes with his wife, right?
Yeah, his wife.
And they have like the scene beforehand.
Yeah, his wife has done this before. She knows this doesn't work. Ray has been pitching his friends for years, and they go out and they're all just laughing at him. They're like, "No, Ray. Like last time you tried to sell us like the straw basket, the wave of the future. No, we're not going to do this time."
Yeah, I just wanted to set up the wife as well, right? Because like I told you, like I watched this film alongside a bunch of other biopics.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like every other biopic, the wife is just like this, almost an afterthought, when they've written the whole script and then they're like, oh, we may as well write in the wife as well, right? And the wife is just like the supportive character. But in this case, you definitely get the sense that there's like a Chekhov's wife going on. And
Chekhov has his hands all over the story.
Correct. Yeah. So you can always see that, like, okay, this is like not a very good relationship, and it's probably going to end in a Chekhov's divorce, right? But it's like offset by the fact that you're watching a biopic, and biopics tend to like, just make the wife sort of like happy with whatever happens to the main character.
Well, I think in this one she's kind of powerless. Like Ray Kroc is a snowball rolling down a hill, and she's either going to be along for the ride or not. And she has seen him fail at this so many times. She is not invested at all. And as my wife points out, Ray Kroc is quite a bit of a dick in this movie, in that his wife supports him, and she finally gets on board, and McDonald's hits it big, and immediately he wants a divorce because now he's a big shot.
Correct. Yes.
So yeah, Ray Kroc's poor wife, who I don't even remember her name, to be honest, the first one.
Yeah, I can't remember either. Is it Ethel or is that the other one?
Joan is the second one. Joan Kroc was famous.
Oh, Ethel,
so
yeah.
this first one is like,
Ethel.
Chekhov's NPC, non-player character.
Yeah. Well, she's actually she's like, compared to a lot of other biopics, quite invested in the film, I think.
She is, and that's Laura Dern, one of my favorite actresses, playing the poor first Mrs. Kroc, who is not going to see most of this action.
Correct.
But she's there. So he's just pitching the stuff, and Ray Kroc has invested his entire future that McDonald's is going to be a hit. In fact, what does he do? He mortgages his house?
Yeah, I think that's later in the film, right? Because that becomes like the catalyst for the divorce, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff here. He's not going to tell his wife basically what he's doing.
Yeah. There's a lot of great scenes with the wife as well, because like again, just like cinematographically or filmographically, she's the scenes where she's like set in the back room and he's in the front room, and she's like in the dark and he's in the light and stuff. It's like it's really great.
I do have to point one thing out here, and that's why, like I said, this movie, you think there's obvious good guys and bad guys, but it's not quite that simple, which is why I like it, is that there's a whole stretch here where you start to feel bad for Ray Kroc, where he's had all this crap heaped on him his entire life, nothing has ever worked, and there's scenes of him like praying, like, please be the one this time, please be the one, and you can see him hustling, he's trying to get this to work, he talks to everybody he knows, he's throwing everything he can at this, and this has to be the one that's going to work, because this will be his last chance. So you start to feel bad for him, that's what makes it really fascinating.
So this is the first hustle, right, where he goes to the country club with his wife and all his rich friends. I think one of the best parts of this movie is that like there are probably more scenes set in classy restaurants than there are set in McDonald's.
Yes. The irony that the McDonald's movie is always set in a fancy restaurant.
Yeah.
So yeah, Kroc is just pitching everybody he knows. Just invest a little money in this. Invest a little money. It's the greatest thing ever. And he finally gets one. What is it, in Des Plaines, Illinois? And I hope I pronounced that right for anybody from the Midwest. I might have screwed that up. The S may be silent. I'm not sure.
Yeah. I'm guessing it's Deplan.
Okay, yeah, I don't know. I'm not from there. But he finally gets one restaurant, and this is going to be his make-or-break moment to see if McDonald's will fly in the rest of the country, which I know is hilarious to say now. But
yeah.
So he's built an exact replica of the McDonald's brothers restaurant out in Illinois, and he's on top of it. He's quality control. He's in charge of everything. But the issue is that he wants to make a modification to the restaurant. And right from the start, this is going to be a problem because he wants to put a basement in there and what else? A furnace?
Yeah. All because of the building codes, right?
Well, it's because
Illinois?
In the Midwest, they have winter. They do not have winter in California. So there's a big weather difference. You would need a furnace in a Illinois. It's very cold in the winter. So there's a difference. And the McDonald's brothers say no, just follow our plan, and they will not give him the capital. And this becomes an issue right off the bat that they will say no to everything.
Right. And can you just explain for the Australian listeners like what winter is?
Yes. Well, I'm in California. I've never seen winter personally, but winter is the chilly part of the year where this white stuff called snow will fall down. and it's very cold, and it's very chilly, and Chicago is one of the absolute coldest places in the U.S. where it gets down to like 0 degrees Fahrenheit. I don't know. In Australia, that's like minus 800 Celsius or something. I'm not sure what that is.
Something like that. Yeah.
But Chicago is notoriously cold, and you do not want to be outside about 4 months of the year. So there's fundamental differences in putting a restaurant there versus California.
Yeah.
Is that
100%.
right? So you've never seen snow personally?
I've seen a bit of it on top of a mountain once.
Okay.
It was melting.
Okay. I would think so. Yes.
Yeah.
So this is Ray Kroc is doing anything he can to make sure this restaurant is going to be a success in Illinois. And this is the Coca-Cola sponsorship that you mentioned at the start.
There was this Coca-Cola wanted to put ads on the billboards, and then that would be like a passive income stream for McDonald's. Which, looking back on now, seems like obviously that's a good idea.
But the brothers do not like it.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
So these brothers, they're just not invested in making McDonald's the the multinational corporation that it is today. It really makes you wonder whose side they're on.
Yeah, but it is really interesting. I keep using that word, but this scene where Ray Kroc is going for it. We're going to do anything we can to make this a hit. We're going to get revenue, and the brothers are just not capitalists. They just will not do that. And this is the funniest quote in the movie where Mac says he will not allow advertising on a McDonald's billboard, and Nick Offerman says, "That sort of crass commercialism is not McDonald's." So, it's very interesting to look at that quote now.
Yeah, that flew by me the first watch.
All right, so the first McDonald's is a hit. Ray Kroc is able to replicate what the McDonald's brothers have done, even though he's not allowed advertising, he's not allowed to have a furnace.
Sorry, we should just riff on that idea a bit more of the that crass commercialism is not.
I mean, what else is there to say? Like, this is unhealthy. McDonald's is not unhealthy.
Well, no, I mean, like, look, crass commercialism is not McDonald's. McDonald's is in the business of making our children fat. I mean, like, just blandly selling Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
Not the idea, right?
Well, it is now. See, I would argue it did not. The McDonald's brothers had wonderful fundamentals. They would have been horrified to see what McDonald's is now.
I say making our children fat. I mean, obviously they've stuck with like family values and made the whole family fat.
Yeah, well, I don't know, but if you've seen like portion sizes back in the 50s, people were not going to get fat on McDonald's back in the 50s. Like a small Coke was like a little thimble of Coke back. Like the portions were so much different. So they probably would not have gotten America fat just on what they were giving out at the time.
Right, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so they just wanted to feed families. That was their whole thing. But yeah, it's the
Yeah.
McDonald's will go through some very fundamental changes through the movie. Okay, so Kroc is his restaurant's a success despite all the McDonald's brothers not letting him put his ideas in there. And now Kroc is like, because his first one is a success, now he starts getting other people to buy in and open their own chain. And he's opening them so fast that the McDonald's brothers are starting to worry. They're like, if he starts starting 8 new restaurants in a month, how the hell is he going to do quality control? Because that's their big issue. And surprisingly, that will be a problem. He is not able to do quality control.
Yeah, and he actually agrees with them, because they end up selling. Somebody puts lettuce on the burger, which is horrific, right?
Oh, lettuce is terrible. That's communist.
You ever bite into a burger and get lettuce? The crunch. It's awful.
It's terrible. Get those vegetables off my burger.
Yeah, variety, I tell you, is the enemy here.
Kroc is trying. He really does try, and that's the one thing I like to point out about this movie. He's really trying his best to be the McDonald's brothers. Is that he berates this one guy for putting lettuce on the burger, and there's another franchisee who's selling fried chicken, biscuits, and corn.
Disgusting.
I know. But then another guy puts in jukeboxes, so they summon teenagers, which is abhorrent.
Not the teenagers.
Yeah. There's a great Mitch Hedberg. Do you know who Mitch Hedberg is, comedian?
No, I think I've heard of him, but go for it.
He has this really famous joke that I have to quote here where he talks about when you see a McDonald's commercial, it always says, prices and participation may vary, which means that this franchisee don't have to follow McDonald's rules. They can do whatever they want.
Yeah.
So Mitch was like, I want to open a McDonald's one day, and I want to participate in nothing. I want to come to they come to my McDonald's, and they're like, do you have burgers? He's like, nope. He's like, all we got here are spaghetti and blankets. So that's what I think of when I see the McDonald's selling fried chicken and biscuits.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that is the villain that Ray Kroc is rallying against here, I think.
Although I should point out that McDonald's does indeed sell fried chicken and biscuits now, so we've come full circle.
That's cool. I had to introduce my wife to what biscuits are in the American sense the other day.
Oh, she's never had one?
Well, yeah, well, like in Australia, biscuits are like cookies, right?
That's right. It's okay. I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. And scones are what you would call biscuits.
Well, a scone would be like a scone. They would have sugar in those, right?
No, we are a little. Well, it depends really. I think we're a little more conservative with our use of sugar in Australia.
How dare you say that?
Yeah. I'm sorry. You guys have like sugar in your bread, right?
Oh yeah, we get sugar in our bread. We get sugar in everything. You should look at our breakfast cereal for our kids, which is 100% sugar.
Yeah. Yeah.
The hell you say we have a sugar problem.
Yeah.
So, Ray Kroc is very concerned that he is not able to do quality control. And this is where he's going to do a heel turn, a little villain turn, where he's going to decide, you know what? It's more important to sell franchises and start more McDonald's than it is to do quality control.
Yeah, this is where he starts profiling people, right?
He starts profiling people, but I would argue it's you could see that as one of two ways. He's looking for specific people to buy a McDonald's, or you can look at it this other way, which I think is more interesting. He feels really bad when he sees people who are not succeeding in the world, and he wants to give them the access to the American dream. He's like, you own a McDonald's, you'll be making money way more than you ever have before. And in his mind, he's doing a wonderful thing because he's giving people access to money and jobs and creating an economy.
Yes, 100%. And creating economy is obviously like what we are all here to do.
I mean, but that's the thing. That is important in the world. You do need that.
Yes. Obviously, yeah.
And obviously, maybe it goes a little far in America sometimes, but that would be his argument. Look at how many people I made money for, and I gave them jobs and careers, and they got to hire their own employees, and they moved up in social circles. So he's like, the quality control may have gone down, but look at what I provided to the world.
Yeah. See, I think the heel turn comes a little later, right? Because at the moment it's still like warm and fuzzy because he's going to like family-oriented things, I think, or like he's going to veterans. He goes to like a veterans restaurant. He goes to he employs a Jewish Bible salesman.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's spreading it around.
Yeah, so he's profiling warm and fuzzy things.
And that's his pitch. McDonald's is family. Yeah. I'm offering you opportunity. Put your arms around the American dream.
Yeah. That's a really warm and fuzzy feeling, right?
It is. It's very powerful, especially in that area of the country. You're in the Midwest. This is not the coastal cities where people are already rich. The Midwest is very humble, hardworking people in general, especially in the 50s. So that's the thing. That's why this movie is so interesting. Is he doing a good thing or a bad thing? It depends on who you ask.
Right. Yeah. Definitely. So this is where he meets Patrick Wilson and his wife.
Yeah, this is where, so Ray Kroc's going to become a big shot here. Right now, he's still a hardworking arm of the McDonald's Corporation. But this is where the brothers back in California start seeing warning signs where they learn that Ray Kroc is now calling his Des Plaines, Illinois, McDonald's. He calls that McDonald's number 1. And the brothers are like, what are we then? If he's number 1, what were we, 0? So, and this will become a fundamental, again, to this day, the McDonald's Corporation does not acknowledge that San Bernardino location as part of their history.
That's crazy. I think they have started to acknowledge that, maybe there was somebody before Ray Kroc.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, they know.
In theory, maybe somebody gave him an idea.
Yeah, somebody may have helped Ray Kroc a little bit. That's basically what their stance. So Ray Kroc is now handing out franchises and jobs left and right. He's basically a god. And a couple things are going to run into the problem here is that the first one is that he's not making all that much money. Even though he's like a rainmaker, he's dropping all these fortunes on everybody else by giving them franchises. He only has a 0.4% franchise fee.
Yeah. It's crazy.
So he gets crap. He gets crap and he's mad. And this is where he also meets his future wife, Joan.
Yeah. I think there's a scene here where where he pisses off his current wife by telling her that he's not interested in going to the country club anymore.
Yeah, he's too big for it now.
Yeah. Or he's interested in less rich people.
No, that's true. That's a good point. Yeah, he doesn't want to just pitch to businessmen. He wants to pitch this to the common man.
There's a great scene here where he like steps up off the bed and like leaves his suit there. So it like filmographically again, it looks as though like there is just like nobody there in the suit.
It's good. I hadn't thought of that. I like that. Yeah, so Ray Kroc now considers himself a god, basically. That he's like, people are coming to me, they're kissing my ring, and he meets this woman in a nightclub. It's one of his franchisees. He's got a wife who plays the piano, played by Linda Cardellini. Her name is Joan. She eventually will become Joan Kroc, who was just as famous as Ray Kroc in his heyday. They were known as a power couple, but this is the upgrade wife, the second wife.
Yeah, and this is a 50s nightclub, by the way, not like a doof kind of nightclub today.
Yes, there's far less disco and like
yeah,
Madonna going on.
There's no shiny lights, no drugs.
Yes, it's a restrained 50s nightclub.
Yes, yeah.
So Ray Kroc is just going around the Midwest now, handing out franchises, telling everybody that he started this and his number one restaurant is in Des Plaines and nobody knows any difference. So he's becoming very famous. And again, this is where Ray Kroc now gets in a fight with the McDonald's brothers where he starts demanding changes. And he's like, I want a higher franchise fee. And they're like, no. They're like, you'll get 4.4% and like it. That was the contract. And he's like, no, I want to renegotiate. And this is where Dick and Mac, the brothers, are like, uh-oh, we let our wolf into the hen house. We're in trouble. That guy's never going to stop, is he?
Yeah. And it's exactly this scene that you realize that Ronald McDonald is not making an appearance in this film.
Yes. Maybe he'll be in the sequel.
Yeah, The Founder 2, Electric Boogaloo.
Again, yeah, Chekhov's clown. He will show up.
Yes.
So here's the big problem, and this is where Ray is going to become Ray Kroc, is that the biggest problem McDonald's faces, they have one overwhelming expense in every restaurant. Rowan, what would be that expense?
Because they have to store all of this ice cream for the milkshakes.
Yeah, therein lies the problem. Every McDonald's uses fresh ice cream. It's one of their trademarks, these shakes. And it's so overwhelmingly expensive to have all this ice cream in your freezer all the time, or in your refrigeration down there. So, and this is a problem. Even the McDonald brothers know this, right? They're aware of this issue.
And the only other alternative is to sell chocolate milk instead of a thick shake.
Yes, and we're not going to do that. We're not savages like Australia.
Yeah, it's disgusting.
Terrible.
Yeah.
So McDonald's has this problem that milkshakes are synonymous with McDonald's, but so much of your overhead is dedicated to keeping the ice cream frozen. And this is where Joan Kroc, his future wife, says, hey, I'm kind of an entrepreneur. I've heard of these things called powdered milkshakes.
Yeah, and then they participate in the whole thing. And I think the interesting thing here is Ray Kroc started off as a milkshake salesman. So like him going along with powdered milkshake is essentially the scene where like Darth Vader puts on the mask for the first time.
Yeah, Ray is going to turn here. Yeah, he loves this. Again, Ray is an entrepreneur. He's got dollar signs in his eyes. He's always about the bottom line. He loves this. We can fake milkshakes, and we don't have to pay refrigeration costs. So he calls up the McDonald's brothers. He's like, I got a great way to save us money. And what do they say? They're perfectly happy about this, right?
Yeah. Oh, no, absolutely not. But before we get into that, I think there's another interesting part of this scene where they're drinking the milkshake, right? And it's the whole thing where they've got like the straws and like, they're drinking the milkshake together. But it's him and like his friend's wife, and the friend is also just like at the restaurant.
Yeah,
like at the point at which somebody is taking your wife on dates, like why do you keep going along with them, man? Like, come on.
Ray Kroc is stealing the guy's wife right in front of him.
Yeah. And there's just like a whole lot of phallic symbols with like the spoon, the straw, etc. in the milkshake. It's like, come on, man. Like something's going on here.
This is when Ray Kroc has become Ray Kroc, when he can walk up to you, take your girlfriend right in front of you, and make you smile about it.
Correct.
So explain the powdered milkshake. Well, how exactly does that work? So for people who may haven't seen the movie.
Yeah, so all you have to do is add water and then just mix it, and it turns into a perfect tasting milkshake.
Yeah, there's an emulsifier in there, and you just stir it up, and it's like indistinguishable from real ice cream. And Ray Kroc is giddy about this.
As you would be when a beautiful woman makes a milkshake in front of you.
Exactly, that's the thing. She's suggestively drinking a milkshake. I mean, I would think that's a good idea too.
Yeah, definitely.
So, yeah, he calls the McDonald's brothers. He's like, I got a great idea, fake milkshakes. And they're like, no, They're like, a milkshake has milk. There's no way you are ever going to sell that product in a store with our name on it. No, absolutely not.
And maybe he should have just like got their wives to make one for him in front of them. That would have worked.
A lot of suggestive milkshake drinking maybe swayed them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Here, my wife will be eating a carrot and drinking this milkshake suggestively. And make sure it's vanilla, just for the... never mind.
I can also do banana flavored milkshake. It's like...
Yes. I don't know if Ray Kroc was going to go that far for these, pimping out the McDonald brothers' wives to seduce their husbands.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the Joan Kroc has seduced Ray into having his milkshakes. And again, this is the point in the movie where Ray will start not asking for permission anymore. He's just going to go through with it.
Yeah, 100%. And that's where he starts seducing the wife as well.
Yes, I think he's already doing that, to be honest. I mean, that's Michael Keaton.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. That's Michael Keaton. Yeah, he sets my heart aflutter just watching him.
Yeah. Would you like him to drink a milkshake in front of you?
Yeah, I should hope so. I actually have that. I play that scene on repeat, buddy.
Yeah, slow motion. He slows it down. We watch it forward and backward on repeat.
Yeah.
That's Australian porn. They watch the Founder milkshake scene.
Yeah.
All right, so Ray Kroc is about to stop asking for permission because he knows this powdered milkshake is going to be the wave of the future. And this is where he gets this is where he's going to absolutely hamstring the McDonald's brothers, where he's in the bank. I'm going to see if I can explain this correctly. He's in the bank arguing about his loan to a loan officer. The guy's like, you have no capital. And Ray Kroc's like, I need capital. Like, I need money to invest in more restaurants. And the guy's like, you don't have it. And this financier in the next booth over named Harry Sonneborn, who was a real guy, played by B.J. Novak in this movie, overhears him, and he says, you're Ray Kroc from McDonald's. And he's like, yeah. And the guy's like, how could you not be rich? McDonald's is the fastest selling, the biggest growing industry ever. How are you not rich? And Kroc's like, because I signed a crappy contract. And the guy's like, well, let's go back to your office. I'll go through your ledgers, and I'll tell you how to start making money. And this is where Kroc is really going to, I guess we would say he becomes a monster at this point.
Yeah, and this is where you can firmly also just shut the book on Ronald McDonald making an appearance in this film. They had to make room for Harry Sonneborn.
Yeah, Harry Sonneborn, I mean, he was a big deal. He was the first CEO of McDonald's, and if you know McDonald's history, he and Ray Kroc were like the number 1 and 2 guys. They were a big deal. But this is where we get the key to McDonald's, and I will let you explain this one, Rowan, because this is something I don't think a lot of people know about McDonald's. It's a trivia fact thrown in at the very end of the movie, is that McDonald's is like the number 2 holding in real estate of any company in the world. They own so much real estate, and that's why they're rich. So explain the scene where Mr. Sonneborn explains to Ray Kroc how he can get rich.
Right. So Harry Sonneborn explains that the reason that McDonald's should be successful and should make a lot of money is not to do with the actual restaurants, the franchising. It is to do with owning the land underneath it. So if you set all of the distribute the franchises and only distribute them to the places where you own the land, and you set the building codes for those lands, or the regulations for those lands, then you're guaranteed to make a lot more money than if you instead just sell franchises.
Yeah. If you own the land that your franchisee build on, you have them by the balls, because they have to lease from you at your prices. You control all quality control. If they cross you once, you terminate their lease. So now
and you also take their wife.
Yeah, and you take their wife. Yeah, Ray's got like 100 wives by the end of this movie. It's like Genghis Khan.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Ray Kroc effectively becomes the McDonald brothers. He gains all the power over hundreds of franchises. And again, the McDonald brothers only have power over him. And so he's like, I have to answer to you, but all these other people have to answer to me, and he's going to grow so much bigger than them, and that's going to be the problem they run into. He's going to become a millionaire, mega millionaire overnight because he owns all this land.
Yep. And I think we already mentioned the mortgage, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's where the wife finds out about the mortgage, and that's why they get divorced basically over that.
They get divorced. Yeah. In the same scene where she finally gets on board with
I know.
Like all the
What a dick.
She finds 2 franchisees, and then he divorces her at the same night.
He's like, Ray, I love this. We're going to be rich. He's like, yeah, I want to get a divorce now.
Yeah. She should have just made a milkshake.
It was that easy. Just the powdered milkshake and the spoon.
Yeah.
All right, I got a towel off here. All right, so but there's one great quote here. There's a couple great quotes in this movie, and this is one where B.J. Novak explains to Ray Kroc. He's like, "You don't seem to realize what business you're in, Mr. Kroc. You're not in the restaurant business. You're in the real estate business." And that's the line that really opens his eyes. And from here on out, it's just Ray Kroc dominates the world. Nobody can stop him.
Yeah, that's the moment. And then he renames it the McDonald's Corporation.
Yeah.
which had previously not existed.
Yeah, Ray Kroc now starts buying all the land out from every McDonald's underneath them, and he forms a second company called the Franchise Realty Corporation. And the McDonald brothers are a little troubled. They're like, "What's this?" He's like, "Don't worry about it. This is nothing."
Yeah.
And then it becomes the McDonald's Corporation, and they have a little more of a problem with that because that's their name.
Yeah. And this is the moment where Chekhov's diabetes finally fires.
Yes. Okay, yeah, this is the big showdown where Ray Kroc is now bigger than the McDonald's brothers, and they're furious. They're like, "What are you doing? You're buying land. You're trying to force us out." And he's like, basically, "Yeah, stop me." And they have the big argument. How does this go? This is it's the debate. Who really understands what McDonald's is? Is it the stand in San Bernardino, or is it his empire he's creating in the Midwest? Which one is McDonald's?
Yeah, and I think this is the moment where he finally just kills, what's the guy's name? Mac McDonald? Dick.
It's Mac.
Yeah. This is the scene where he finally kills, it's Dick, because he hits Mac with the diabetes, but then he hits Dick with the fact that the speedy system was never actually very important.
Yes, that was it, yeah. So Ray Kroc basically tells them to go fuck themselves, and they're like, "No, you can't do this. We have a contract." And he's like, "You know what? Sue me." He's like, "You can sue me. That's fine. You'll probably win. But guess what? I can bury you in court costs. I have hundreds of restaurants around the world. I make millions of dollars a year. Try it. I dare you." And they realize they're screwed. And so Mac McDonald's has his diabetic attack, and Dick McDonald's realizes he doesn't even own his own name anymore.
Right. Yeah. It's insane.
And on top of that, Ray Kroc now takes full credit for the golden arches and says they were his idea.
Yeah. Yeah, and that is the point in which he transcends into godhood and has like his own religious symbols.
Yes. It becomes a cult movie the last 20 minutes. But yeah, Ray Kroc basically tells his lawyers, he's like, "Make these yokels, the McDonald brothers, go away." He's like, "Whatever you have to do, whatever you have to pay them, make them go away." And we get a very heated call here, and I wrote down the dialogue in this scene because I got to talk about it, where the McDonald brothers are like, "McDonald's is about quality. It's about quality control, putting out a good, honest product at a low price." And Ray's like, "No, it's about crushing your enemies." And this is where they get the fundamental difference in how people view business, where Ray's like, "Business is war. You crush your enemies. I'll do anything." He's like, "If one of my competitors came up to me drowning, I'd put a hose in his mouth personally and drown him more." And that's the kind of spirit you need to make it in this world. And he tells the McDonald's brothers, "Can you say the same about yourself? Would you do that?" And they're like, "Honestly, no, we would not do that."
Yeah. And at that point, you're like, what are you really fighting for here? If you can't just do an honest day's work as a businessman, like, why are you even like in this?
Yeah. And Ray even he taunts them. He calls them yokels, hillbillies, and he says, "Come after me, sue me." He's like, "I'm national. You're fucking local. Good luck."
Yeah. That was a great line.
So Ray Kroc is a killer, and he's going to take over their business. And at this point, the McDonald's brothers are forgotten. Their business is out of their hands. They own nothing. And from here, it's Mac has his little diabetic attack. He ends up in the hospital.
Yeah. Oh, I thought this comes...
We're at the end of the movie now.
Okay,
We've already skipped through that.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, so...
Yeah. I thought that bit happened before the legal battle, right?
It's long. It's, like you said, Chekhov's diabetes. It's a very gradual diabetic attack. Where
right.
They warn it's going to happen 15 times before, "Oh, hey, look, he had a diabetic attack."
Yeah.
So the McDonald's brothers are now in the hospital, and one of the brothers is recovering, and he just can't handle the stress. They're just simple businessmen, and they're like, Ray Kroc is never going to go away. We'll never beat him. We'll never be rid of him. And they're like, "Let's just make it go away." And Ray Kroc comes in, and he gives them a blank check. Yeah, he's like, basically, fill in any amount of money you want, and we'll make this go away.
And they originally tell him no?
They say no at first, but eventually they realize it's futile. This is going to happen at some point. They might as well get as much money as they can and just wash their hands of it.
Right, yeah. And then they agree to the 1% annual royalty.
Yeah, this is important. This is the we got to make sure we cover this correctly here. So,
Yeah. Okay.
the McDonald's brothers agree that they want $2.7 million to basically sign over McDonald's to Ray Kroc and say it's his. He has all naming rights and all. He is the founder of McDonald's now. 2.7 means they each will get $1 million after taxes. And they get to keep the San Bernardino store. They want their original store because they want to give it to their employees, all the hardworking employees. And here is the contentious part. And this is, the McDonald's history is very murky over how true this is. That the brothers say, we want 1% of all profits in perpetuity. Until the day we die, we always get 1% of future profits. And Ray Kroc blows a gasket. There's no way he's going to give them that.
Yeah. And then they agree to a handshake deal, which, like, 1% annual royalty of McDonald's would be a lot, right?
Yeah, they talk about that in the epilogue. I'll get to that at the end of the podcast, how much money that would have been worth.
All right, yeah.
But all they want is 1%, and Kroc says no, and they draw up all these contracts, and the brothers think they're going to get everything. And at the last minute, Ray Kroc's lawyers say, we'll agree to this. You can have the San Bernardino store. You get your $1 million each. We can't give you the 1%. I mean, we can, but it'll be under the table. It won't be in the contract. It'll be a handshake. Just know you're going to get this. We'll promise it. We just can't write it down in the contract.
Yeah. Which sounds totally reasonable. Like, I would buy that.
And that's the thing. The brothers claim this happened. The McDonald's Corporation claims this didn't happen. It's a he said, she said, even to this day.
Yeah. 100%. And probably one we'll never get to the bottom of.
And the brothers know there's no way he's going to honor that 1% handshake. But Michael Keaton and Ray Kroc is so charming. He's like, sure, just trust me. You'll get your royalties. You know, it's you'll get everything you expect. And the brothers are like, there's no way we're going to get that. And here's a spoiler. They don't.
Yeah. It's a real shock when the guy that's been screwing you over for the past, 7 months is suddenly turns out to be, not a good guy.
I know. How dare you screw us again?
Yeah. Fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice.
Fool me 12 times, shame on us.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Ray Kroc is now, in essence, McDonald's. It all comes and goes with him. It all starts with him. He's been going around telling people he founded this for years. Meanwhile, these poor brothers have been pushed out. And this is where we get the really, I would say, heartbreaking scene, but also very murky black and white scene where Dick McDonald meets Ray Kroc in the bathroom at the end to discuss what happened.
So this is a scene where Ray explains to Dick that actually the real value of McDonald's has nothing to do with the speedy system that he created from his genius autistic mind, and instead has everything to do with the name McDonald's itself, because it's far better than the what is it, the Czech?
His name Kroc. Yeah, my name is Slavic.
Yeah, Slavic. Yeah, which was great.
Yeah, Ray Kroc meets Dick McDonald, and all this is over now. The McDonald's brothers have been stripped of their chain with their name on it. And Dick's like, can you just tell me one question, Mr. Kroc? Why? Why didn't you just come in and steal our business? Like, you came in, you saw all our secrets. You could have stolen that entire system. It would have been so less painful. Why did you have to do it this way? And like Rowan said, Ray Kroc says, because it wasn't the system, it's the name. I just wanted your name. McDonald's, it means anything. Like, it's all American. It has open-ended. Like, my name, Kroc. Who would eat at a place called Croc's?
Yeah. And, yeah. That'll never take off. Croc's is a business model.
And yeah, Dick McDonald, his face just falls. He realizes that's all Ray Kroc wanted all along. They could have just given him the name, and it would have been so much easier. But here's the quote. I find this is the quote that made me think about this movie for weeks afterwards, where Ray Kroc says, a guy named McDonald, he's never going to get pushed around in life with that name. And Dick McDonald's like, that's clearly not the case. And Ray says, let's think about this for a second. You're telling me you don't have a check for $1.35 million in your pocket? Which is really interesting because I have heard interviews with these brothers, the Dick and Mac, their kids, and their kids will say, our parents were perfectly happy with that deal. They got $1.35 million in the 50s. That's a lot of money. So like their kids will even say they were perfectly happy with this deal. They didn't need all this money. They got a lot of money. They retired happily. They got exactly what they wanted out of McDonald's. It sucks that they didn't get the sense of pride and the credit for it, but they had very happy lives after this. And that's what I think makes this interesting, where Ray Kroc makes the point. You guys made out pretty well, so I wouldn't complain.
And when did the brothers start doing like press about it?
They never did.
Oh, okay. I thought there was an interview or
No,
something.
I believe that was part of the deal. They weren't allowed to talk about it. And it wasn't until recently, like in the last 10, 15 years, that their kids have started talking about it. That's why this is fairly recent knowledge, this stuff.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, so what do you think? What do you think of that viewing, that maybe the brothers actually did pretty well? This is the best optimal future they could have had anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. I mean, like, they probably weren't going to make $1 million off the San Bernardino stand, especially after it went downhill in San Bernardino. Yeah, probably the best outcome for them all. Maybe with a few less diabetic shocks.
But that's the argument for a hit piece on Ray Kroc. They actually make a good point at the end that the brothers really didn't want what Ray Kroc had. Like, he did something completely different, and they didn't want it anyway, so they actually made out pretty well. And that's why I found myself thinking about this movie afterwards. Like, that's a very interesting point, that maybe there wasn't really a bad guy here. Maybe this was just inevitable, that they were not built for that time. I
mean, yeah, I think maybe they probably would have liked to have their own surname on their restaurant.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm leaving out the end part where Ray Kroc absolutely buries them now, though.
Yeah.
Now, this part is true, and this is, again, there's shades of gray in this movie, but at the very end, Ray Kroc is just an absolute dick, which I guess hammers the nail home this is a hit piece, where Ray Kroc is furious that he did not get that San Bernardino store, the original. He wants that. And in the movie, they say in the contract that he's not going to get the store. If you go to the San Bernardino Museum, they say Ray Kroc didn't know he wasn't going to get that store, that it was a surprise to him, and that's why he was furious.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. So, and then that's why he takes the name off the store.
Yeah. Okay, this is the final humiliation of the McDonald's brothers, that Ray Kroc makes them take their name off the store. They're forced to call it Big M instead of McDonald's. And then in one of the biggest dick power moves of all time, he opens a McDonald's right across the street and drives them out of business. I mean, that you got to respect that power move. That's a power move.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. It's a step below taking the guy's wives, but.
Oh yeah, in the epilogue we find out he also took their wives.
Yeah. And the wives actually worked at the restaurant as well.
They loved it. They love him.
Crazy, yeah.
Yeah, Ray Kroc was a skilled lover. We learned that.
Yeah. They actually used to go out and make milkshakes in front of the new store just to taunt their ex-husbands.
The final humiliation, the phallic milkshakes from their own wives.
Yeah.
So Ray Kroc has destroyed the McDonald's brothers. They are dead. He has killed. I mean, they have their $1 million, but their stand is gone. He's run them out of business. And the movie ends with him in the 1970s. He's now much older, and he's prepared to give a speech. And he's going to go talk in front of Governor Reagan, who's going to become the president one day. These are the circles Ray Kroc will now run in. And we find out he's making $700 million a year. So that $1 million he gave to the McDonald's brothers was a pittance.
That's a lot of money, $700 million.
And he's married to Joan now.
Yes, married to Joan. It's interesting, yeah, everything at this point. I think even the speech that he gives right now, or is preparing to give in front of Governor Reagan, is the speech that is on the record at the start of the film.
Yes, it's the same speech, that persistence is important. Not genius or talent, just persistence.
Yeah, so he's stolen the company, he's stolen the wife, and he's stolen the speech.
Yes.
And I think that is, it is the exact opposite of a made-for-TV movie where the real McDonald's is the enemies that we made along the way, I think.
Yeah, it's a really interesting turn of events here. Ray Kroc has now conquered the world, and he is giving a speech to the governor, makes $700 million a year, and now he is passing himself off as a self-made millionaire, that he came up with this company, he designed the arches, and he is, again, to this day, this is the this is the company line, what McDonald's will tell you, that Ray Kroc did it all by himself. And it's very interesting to see how this movie undercuts that somewhat.
Yeah, it's it's done really well, I think.
And now we get the epilogue, and this would be known as the stomach punch.
Yeah, this is where they reveal that the McDonald's brothers never were paid their royalties, and it would be paid about $100 million a year.
Oh God, yeah. Okay, here's the stats at the end of the movie that everybody in this movie got rich in real life except the two brothers. McDonald's is now in over 100 countries. When Ray Kroc died, his wife had $1.5 billion in assets and money, and she donated almost all of it to charity. Yeah, Joan Kroc was actually, she's very well respected and highly regarded. And you could make the argument, so much of that money at the end of her life went to, charitable, foundations and stuff. Was what Ray Kroc did all that bad? Because it ended up all going to charity. And that's why I think it's really ethically murky.
I don't know if it's that murky. I think what McDonald's has turned out to be is pretty dystopian.
Yeah, the product sucks. I hate McDonald's now, but all that money that they made all ended up going to NPR, National Public Radio, and Salvation Army. And Joan Kroc, from every account I've ever read, was like a saint. So it's really interesting. The McDonald's brothers would not have donated $1.5 billion to National Public Radio.
Yeah, that's true.
And here's the other thing that come up is that McDonald's is now one of the biggest real estate holders in the world. Every day they feed 1% of the world's population, which is astounding.
That is, astounding.
And at the end of the movie they said, if the brothers had received their royalties, today it would be worth $100 million each per year.
That's a lot.
So, that is what the McDonald brothers and their families never got, and I've read that even though the brothers were perfectly happy with their deal, a lot of their relatives and sons and children and stuff are like, it would have been nice if we'd had a little bit of that cut, knowing that our parents founded McDonald's and none of us had anywhere near that kind of money.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the movie ends with a little disclaimer that McDonald's eventually put real ice cream back in their milkshakes. So good for McDonald's.
Yeah. You can tell that's where the lawsuits are coming from.
Yes, Chekhov's milkshake right there.
Yeah, Chekhov's milkshake. Yeah.
So that is the story of the founder, one of the most interesting, thought-provoking, discussion-provoking movies I've seen in a long time.
Oh, yeah, definitely. After watching this film, I had to try and just rack my brains for films that might be like it. And I didn't find a single one. I went and rewatched The Social Network, the Mark Zuckerberg film. It doesn't hold a candle to it. The Wolf of Wall Street, I just assumed might be similar, but I hadn't seen it yet, and it is not. And I think that I think the difference there in both of those is that in The Social Network they don't really make a clear point about who is right and who is wrong, even though it is ostensibly the same story wherein somebody is perhaps stealing from two brothers, and then The Wolf of Wall Street is just a very long film that doesn't really make a very tight point, and it's not as nearly as poetic, I think, as The Founder. And it's just this is probably the only film I can think of that is both, poetic and symmetrical in a certain sense, in that you have all this stuff that is set up at the start and then unraveled by the end of the film, and also just really tight and put into one single package that you can watch in about an hour and a half.
Yeah, and one thing I wanted to say is that I know, again, this movie was designed to be a hit piece on McDonald's. It's supposed to take down the legacy of Ray Kroc, but you have a lead actor who's so charismatic, it almost works against it in a way because you kind of root for Michael Keaton. So it's
yeah.
I don't know. I love introducing movies like this to people just because it generates discussion. And again, even if you hate McDonald's, you don't want anything to do with this crappy American corporation that took over everything and made everybody fat. It has such an interesting, murky history, and almost everything in this movie is true as far as I know. From even before I saw this movie, I kind of knew this story.
Yeah, I think I kind of knew this story, but I think I read it when I was 10 years old and read it on Wikipedia. So it didn't really come to life in the same dramatic sense. But I think also having Ray Kroc played by Michael Keaton is just it's a really good masterstroke, I think, in terms of you don't sort of realize that this charismatic man is the bad guy until about halfway through.
But again, he may not even be the bad guy until halfway through.
Yeah, or you don't even consider that he might be a murky character until he starts doing bad things.
And again, what causes him to cross the line into doing bad things? Is it he's just doesn't like being controlled, or is he trying to make all these people's lives better, all these franchisees? It just really, that's why I think about this movie.
Yeah, I think he just has a Pavlovian response to seeing a milkshake made.
It all comes back to that phallic milkshake scene.
Yeah. Actually, I think that was actually one of the scenes where you like, the first time he meets the wife, I think is probably it's a weird scene where you like almost don't think anything bad is going to happen. Like she gets introduced as the guy's wife and you think, oh, classic comedy, guy falls for girl, but she's taken, end of story. And then it's like, oh, actually, no, this is going to get into really murky territory, and maybe he's not the good guy.
Maybe Joan Kroc was just that charming. Maybe that's it. I don't know. But yeah. Again, this is one of those movies. Again, it's only 3 years old. It really breaks my rules on staff picks, but I just think everyone should know about this movie because it generates so much discussion, and it's so relevant because like a lot of the stuff in this movie affects how commerce and business works today, especially in America. I mean, I'm assuming everywhere, but it's like this movie is very relevant to how businesses work. I can't, like you said, I can't think of another movie that compares to it.
Yeah, it's uncomparable.
And I should point out, in the end credits, they have lots of interviews of the actual Ray Kroc sitting there saying, I just like the name McDonald's. I just came up with that one day in my head, and I like the sound of it. So.
Yeah.
Now, before we sign off,
so crazy.
Have you seen any responses from McDonald's to this movie? I haven't really looked. You know McDonald's has to hate this movie. Have you seen them put out an official response or anything to it?
No, I can't. I haven't seen anything. Surely they would hate it though. But I think they try to avoid. Surely they try to avoid lawsuits on this kind of thing.
Probably, yeah, because then you wonder how the movie even got made, because they were dancing the line of getting sued just by making this movie to start with.
Yeah, sure. But then I think it would become like it would just be like a case of making it more famous just because it's, it would make the screenplay probably a lot more famous if they did try to sue it out of existence.
That's true. It makes it notorious. You make them a martyr.
Yeah, big time.
Well, I got to go out to that McDonald's museum, the one in San Bernardino. I haven't been out there since the movie came out. Or no, I have. But I want to go talk to the owner now because I'm curious. I'm sure he would give me all the details. He's like, I want to tell me what McDonald's thinks of this movie. And I bet he could pull me into a back room and he'll tell me the whole story off the record.
That'd be great. Take some pictures.
Okay. But yeah, I just want to, anything else you want to add before we sign off here about this movie? I know, again, you are a troublemaking journalist, so this movie must be near and dear to your heart. What specifically makes it appeal to you the most?
It's got to be just the way that the story kind of unravels and like all of the Chekhov's different things. Just the way that it is such a poetic telling of the story, and that things unravel and everything is set up by the end of Act 1, so that like all of the people that are that he screws over in the best place in their life at the end of Act 1, and by the end of Act 3 has managed to ruthlessly destroy everyone that has ever helped him in any way.
You won't get this reference, but it's an SNL reference, but he is the Abraham Parnassus of his time. He is...
Crush your enemies! Grind their bones into dirt! Make them regret they were ever born!
But it's interesting because so much of the McDonald's story is based around the self-made man, this heroic figure, Ray Kroc. And it's funny when you watch The Founder that the movie is presented as a Greek tragedy. It's not quite a heroic rising of the phoenix. It's more the Icarus of the McDonald's brothers crashing back down to earth after their success.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've compared McDonald's to Greek mythology now.
Yeah, that's good. That's what we need.
All right, so I think that's it again. Yeah, I just want to thank you for stopping by and talking about this movie. And it's always fun to have international people on because you guys have a different perspective. Like I did not know the thing about biscuits. You've never seen those.
Oh, yeah. Well, I made them last week. I had a bit of biscuits and gravy.
So you're basically an American Southerner now.
Yeah, y'all sure know about that.
And again, my name is Mario Lanza. This is Staff Picks. If you need to reach me, you can reach me at staffpickspodcast@gmail.com or on Twitter @Mario J. Lanza. And until next time, I'll be out there looking for more movies that deserve more love, and I'll try to find somebody interesting to come on and talk about them. Until next time, make sure you find a small family-run business and take it over and crush them into the ground. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.
He just ate. He didn't finish. He's going to McDonald's instead of finishing here.
He sees his friend, sir. It's okay.
It's okay, McDonald's. What do you think they do there? They don't drink milkshakes, I assure you.